Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me in Type Ed. I just had a little study here that I wanted to go over. I had a conversation with some folks a while back about how they needed to use rounded typefaces based on a request from a client for body copy. They were using this equal typeface, and I just wanted to compare rounded typefaces for a second. When you see a typeface like this, and immediately when I saw it, I thought, well, that's not designed for body copy because of the erratic nature in which it was set. But it might not be the way it was set either, because even if I make this is kind of the exact settings we had it at. But even if I make this better, the type looks a little weird. So these are all set 10 on 14. Even this equal set 10 on 14. See how gigantic it is. So that alarmed me quite away right away because at the rest of these, they look kind of average and similar. But I'm also looking at see how they operate. Not only large in a headline, these are all set at regular, by the way, but does the typeface come out with, these headlines are set with 20, tracking, which is abnormal for me. And this is just how they had it set. But because I'll usually set these in a larger type, I'll set it with negative tracking and I'll switch it to optical, right? So my headlines are typically look like this because of the, larger the type, less space you need. Even with this, because I try to match the density and the word spacing to the smaller body copy type. So I'll even use it back even further, like here. And just so it matches up, to the body copy, and which is, so I'll do that to all these. And this is what I'll do to test. This is optical. I may want to soft return that just to see how it operates. But this could even go, for unit, it could go even larger, to have the same kind of, look as the other ones, because it looks small, right? So same with basic commercial here, optical, and see how this, even if I pull it back in, it's almost too much at optical. So they all operate differently. And that's why you have to kind of test them sometimes to see, how they work with one another. So if I get all these kind of set the same way, and Gotham is big anyway, right? So then I start to look at the body copy. So this, this looks really closed down as far as it's at zero tracking. Sometimes I may have to look at content like this and let it, space it out. So here's 10 tracking, which might help it a little bit. Also, the size might help it, going 9/14 instead of 10. This one for din next might go up in size, and the character spacing might come down to -10. It just depends, at 11, actually looks better at 10/14 that way, because the characters are narrower, right? Slightly narrower than equal, but not as wide as Gotham and Newsit, if you will. And Newsit, is kind of lighter. This is regular, but I might squeeze it in a little bit too, just so I have, better reading there. For 10/14 for trade Gothic rounded, I might go an extra point of lead here that might look better. But because the character spacing is pretty good so far. For FF unit, I might go -10 and space it out with more lead. That might look a little bit better. Actually, it looks good as it is at 14. For basic commercial, this one's kind of rough because it looks like it's really close together. It looks like it might be a neo-Gothic or something. So I'll let the spacing out, the tracking out a bit on that one. Probably, yeah. Aerial rounded looks actually pretty good as is. I mean, it's not bad as it is to me. Gotham could always, I've used Gotham a lot, it could always go down a point because it's really big. The X-axis really tall, but it's really smooth in the body copy. So when I look across the board here, this one up here in Newsit might come in another -10 here to kind of match up the same look as all the rest of them. You can see din next rounded, since it's a narrower typeface, you can like let it out a little bit more, and it could actually use another point of lead. It's a little bit more comfortable. This one for equo might need another point of lead as well. But you can see how poorly designed the typeface is on all that. And you could probably adjust it with your H and J's, I guess. Use your justification and see how it works out, just to see if it gets any better. I'll just put the numbers in there and see if it gets any better, which it kind of does, but it does look clunky. Like some characters are, close to each other, some aren't. And so on. The other thing I look at in here is, this is very vertical. This might be a little tougher to read, whereas this is easier to read, even though it's designed poorly. The Newsit Office is pretty good, but I'm also looking at little things like numerals. What makes it easier to read for numerals too is that see these numeral ones that they have. A lot of these are all, since it's sans serif, has just a typical 1. But what's nice about, and I might even choose Trade Gothic here because of their numerals are a little bit easier to read. And it's not quite as fully rounded in the characters. They're so kind of rounded off, but they're not half circles on the end, like did next here, right? They're kind of semi-rounded. So it might make for better reading. I'm not sure, but for my money, I would probably use this as the best one to go with as far as readability. These are all very good. It's just a matter of preference here. This might go to 15. This looks a little narrow. So, you could really make your own choice in all these. Like these are all regular, right? So some are heavier than others. Like the din next rounded is heavy. It really just is a determination of how you want things to fit as well. But I've adjusted them all to kind of look similar. Basic commercial rounded kind of gives me the same feeling as Equo does as far as its awkward spacing. Gotham is really well done, and it always performs well no matter what because it's designed very well. FF Unit might not work because it's so narrow. Same with din next rounded for body copy. Even though Trade Gothic is pretty narrow as well, I'd probably let the tracking out a little bit more. Maybe not. Or add a little bit of leading, I guess. Or bring this down to 9.5 point. That might look even better. Yeah. It really just depends on how you gauge your reader and how easy it's going to be, but also the color of it. Like Gotham is really light. Some of these are a little heavier. That's also a factor in deciding a lot of these, especially for publishing, like a newsletter or anything. So it's really up in the air of which one to pick. I know Trade Gothic performs really well as far as regular Gotham does too. Gotham is, you have to watch that because you usually have to use it at smaller sizes because the X height is so tall, but it performs really nicely. It's very clean as far as its design. Arrow rounded as well. It looks pretty good too. So really just arrow rounded, probably add more point of lead, just so it's in there, just so it breathes a little bit more. Basic commercial looks good as is. I just wanted to go over this fact of this is a little niche thing about using rounded typefaces for body copy because it's very, very unique for me. And I know there's something wrong with Equo, but what is it? It looks better now. It doesn't act normal like what normal for me as a typesetter using it. I really have to mess with it to get it to look clean the way I would normally typeset, like, to get it close to Gotham here. But I had to do a lot to it, see? So a lot of times you don't want to do that much to them, a typeface, just to get them to perform correctly, just for the actual look that you're looking for in the body copy. So this is a good comparison of rounded typefaces across the board to see how they perform, not only in large sizes, but also in body copy. Because in this particular instance, we had to use a rounded for the headlines and the subheads and the body copy. I recommended that we use something else for the body copy and leave the Equo for the top, for the major look for the brand if it is connected to the brand, and use Gotham for the body copy, which would work a lot better, which already is looking better with this typeface using as like a headline. Let's switch it to optical and bring the type closer. So this is probably a better solution than what we were doing before with Equo as body copy. Thanks for joining me for that quick discussion on rounded typefaces for body copy. Thank you.